back, everyone. This is episode number 44, and we are in our third week of reviewing Doctor Who Series 10, and we are in the, like I said, third week, so third episode, and we are literally standing on thin ice, because that is the name of the episode. Thin Ice, third story, and we've got Bill back as the companion, and we have the Doctor, of course, and we also have Nordal too. And joining me tonight, as always, Clarence Brown. Hey, Clarence.
Hey, Kyle. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. I'm into a third week of enjoying Doctor Who, so no complaints for me. What about you?
Yeah. It's going good, man. Going good. Getting settled down after a busy weekend and a busy week last week. Actually went up to the CTX event from C-Spire in Oxford. So I got to see Randy Zuckerberg speak there, which was pretty interesting, as well as the CIO for the NFL, Michelle McKenna-Doyle, and also an AI expert named Dr. Brian Uzi. So yeah, I helped out with the event up there and got to hear some cool talks. So it's been a fun week last week. And
you know what was cool about that picture that you showed, and this was a comment that Lee made, so I'm going to steal it from him, which was that particular picture, you had a small robot in front of you, and how ironic that we just finished reviewing Smile, which had to do with small robots.
Yeah. That's a robot named Pepper, which was very eerily similar to the robots in Smile. So it was a lot of fun.
So tell me, just out of curiosity, what did Pepper do?
Pepper could actually, it had sensors to actually see you and interact with the person. It could talk, and you could give it commands, so like Siri, and it'll give you responses and do certain gestures. It could dance. It could, just a wide array of robot-y type things. It was pretty cool, actually, though. Very cool.
Cool. Well, it actually sounds like something, early generation of something that we'll review probably sometime this summer, which is Humans, and I know that it's in its second series or season, and that's something I know that you and I both have watched. I've only watched half of the second season, so I've got a little bit further to go. But let me ask you a question, and this has nothing to do, sort of to do with Doctor Who. Do you know why sometimes I say seasons and then sometimes I say series? Do you know why I do that?
I would assume that it has to do with the American connection. We're used to seasons over here, but explain why.
Okay, yes and no. Yes, that is true what you just said. To give a distinction of the Doctor Who, considering that 2005 forward is not considered a re-envisioning, like it started over from scratch kind of thing. You don't want to get confused with season 10 and season 10. Season 10 from, 1960 something, 1970 something, or season 10 in 2017. So pretty much people refer to 2005 forward as series 1, series 2, series 3, and then the original, and I think back then they were even called seasons back then. So that's why you hear me very specifically say series 10, simply because that's the distinction. And there was even some people, and myself included, because I did this when I first got iTunes, I went in and changed the season numbers for 2005 episodes that I bought 2006 to say season 27, season 28, to continue the numbering from, the original series. So,
well, I think formula, they've kind of leaned toward calling just the old Doctor Who classic, kind of. And that's kind of how I do it in my library of videos that I have.
Right.
But it just kind of reminds me of me and my brother on Techpedition. We were talking about different properties that come back as the same exact name. So, for instance, there's a video game that came out like the 2000s called Battlefront. There was a Battlefront 1 and a Battlefront 2. Guess what they're calling the new ones that came out in the last few years?
Let me guess.
Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2.
Right.
So yeah, it's just weird how things come back around again, and it all gets kind of confusing. Definitely in the day where we have the internet, you can search for these things, and unless things are named distinctly, how are you going to find what you're looking for?
All right, so I'm going to use your own words against you. So how you're describing that, if I'm understanding you correctly, how you're describing that basically is saying that's kind of irritating that when you're looking at a game and you're seeing it the same name in, say, 2003, and it's a new version or a new game, but it's the same name in 2017. You're saying that's kind of irritating, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, several episodes ago, whenever it was, I think, if I'm not wrong, I think you were basically saying the opposite with comic books, saying, "Oh, it's okay as long as the name, as long as the story's good. It doesn't matter if it's a new number one." See,
okay.
Got you on that.
Yeah, you definitely got me on that one.
Usually, see that that's the purpose of taking notes. Use the person's words against them.
Well, Kyle, speaking of comic books and other geekdom, you're going to talk about this event that we have coming up. So what is it?
Well, before I get to that, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
You said you had been gone last week. Are you going to be home all week and all weekend? Or are you going anywhere?
Yeah, throw it back on me. Yeah, so actually this weekend we will not be in Mississippi. We'll actually be in Atlanta for the Hoolana convention, which if all goes well, it will be me, yourself, Lee, and myself there. And yeah, I'm expecting it to be a lot of fun. So guys, if you don't know what Hoolana is, and I'm reading this directly from the website, Hoolana is the annual Doctor Who and British Media and Culture Convention in Atlanta, Georgia. Formerly known as Timegate, Hoolana is the rebranded name of the convention that fans in the Atlanta area have loved for over 10 years. So this will be our first time as a group attending a convention. And actually, I think this was going to be my first time attending a Doctor Who / comic type event. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, well, you and I are actually in the same boat there because I've never attended a Doctor Who event. And, actually, I've never attended a Comic-Con type event. So double whammy right there. That's new, for both of us. Now, Lee has met Lewis. But and Lewis is Lewis of Doctor Who Podshock. But if for anybody that's new to our show, but having said that, I asked the other night when we were recording Podshock if any of the others had met, and the original three hosts, Lewis and the other two guys that were the original three of Podshock, they've met, but Dave and none of the current group have met. So it's another double whammy when I get to meet Lee, because Lee and Kyle of Podshock and Lee and Kyle of Discussing Who, double whammy, kind of, get to meet. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to hang out with you guys, and I can't wait.
Well, I'm going to take back what you were throwing just a moment ago, which was the comic books and the geek things. Discussing Who, which is going to be Clarence and I, and we may invite a couple of more people, but we have been invited by the not participants, but the people that are heading up Southern Geek Fest, which is not necessarily Comic-Con, but it is a convention in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which is in southern Mississippi, and it's coming up in May, I think May the 20th and the 21st, I believe. We've been invited to do a panel, a Doctor Who panel, so another first for us.
Yeah. Again, we haven't attended conventions, so especially a panel is going to be something new for us. And Yeah, I guess I'm optimistic, and hopefully my nerves won't get in the way of me having fun. But I think it'll be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I think it's going to be fun, and I think what we need to do is just set up a microphone, and there's our episode right there from Southern Geek Fest.
Yes, and like you said, bring a few friends along.
Yep, absolutely. Well, for anyone listening, Lee was supposed to be with us tonight. I know I've referred to Lee just a minute ago. He was supposed to be with us, but he looks to have been detained. So we hope he's not somewhere locked in a vault and trying to get out. But if he is, just knock, and we'll try to come find you. But before I move any further, or we go any further in the episode, let me say, if you have not seen Thin Ice, which is, again, episode 3 of series 10, Doctor Who, put us on pause. We're not going anywhere. Put us on pause. Go watch it, and then come back and start listening, because from here forward, spoilers abound.
Spoilers. Affirmative. Spoilers. Spoilers. Affirmative. Spoilers.
All right, so Clarence, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let me ask you a quick question. I mean, we've got no news. Pretty much all of our news is where we're going. So, Series 3, without really Episode 3, Thin Ice, without really getting into it yet, just answer this question. Did you enjoy it?
Oh, man, probably definitely one of my favorite Capaldi episodes. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and quite possibly my favorite 4 to 5 minutes of New Who period.
Really?
And yes, I really enjoyed this episode, and it had some very, very good dialogue moments that I really loved. But what about you? Did you enjoy this 3rd episode of the new season?
All right, so what you've known from me in watching Doctor Who, I'm going to ask you, based on your knowledge, do you think I enjoyed it?
I think so. And I'm trying to pinpoint why I think you would enjoy this. Yeah. I'm interested to hear your opinion on it.
Okay, and I will say this: I absolutely 100% enjoyed it. This was one, because well, let me say this: I listened before recording. Since we recorded a Podshot last night, I'd already watched the episode again. So before recording this, I went back and listened to our last episode, which, we were talking about Smile. And one of the last comments I made was, I did not have many notes, written down, other than, the notes that I had about the conversations back and forth between Bill and the Doctor. This one, I had notes about the story that had nothing to do with Bill and the Doctor. So yes, much stronger episode, because it had an episode, it had meat to it that wasn't even connected to the great things that Capaldi and Pearl Mackie were doing. So yes, I absolutely love this.
Oh man, and the more I see of Pearl Mackie as Bill, man, she's becoming one of my favorite companions. I know we'll get into it, just the emotion she can portray on screen really, really hit me in this episode.
All right, so let's just try our best to chronologically just walk through the episode, and in doing so, let's just take it from the beginning. This is something that they did back in the early 60s that they've really not done in the current version of Doctor Who, unless it was a story that you knew without a doubt is to be continued. It's moving from one to the other, which is, this all is happening linear. It's all just happening one after the other, which again hasn't been done since really the 60s.
Yeah, and it's something, I wouldn't just it didn't just jump out me before like the previous seasons. It just didn't jump out me as being something that they did not do, but it's so apparent in these last few episodes that it's like back to back to back. And he even mentions, a few hours ago we were looking at deathly robots on another planet.
Right.
So yeah, just how it's all happening in a very, very short amount of time is really, really interesting.
So, obviously the TARDIS lands, and once again, he thinks he's back, where they started in his office,
Yeah.
and he's in, 18, the early 1800s, the Frost Fair.
Yeah. So I got.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you
ahead.
this: the Frost Fair. Have you ever heard of the Frost Fair before?
No, that is the first time I've ever heard of it.
No, it's not. But you may not have paid attention, and obviously, I paid attention because of who he took to the Frost Fair. In A Good Man Goes to War, when Rory is dressed up as the Centurion coming to get River, she's coming back from the Frost Fair, and the doctor had just taken her.
Oh, so that's why that food was his favorite. Slash, he's been there before, which you mentioned.
Bingo. And he's actually taken the first doctor, and I'm actually now this part taking from Wikipedia. The first doctor took Vicky and Stephen to the Frost Fair, and they met Jane Austen. And then, let's see, there was a novelization where the 12th Doctor took Clara to the Frost Fair in 1814. So back to what you just said, of why him talking about the food.
Yeah.
Yes, he's been there before.
So is the Frost Fair a real historical event, or is something just purely invented for the show?
No, I believe it is 100% real. I think, they mention, let's see here. Well, I'll take this from Wikipedia. The episode features a visit to the 1814 Frost Fair, the last one to be held at the old London Bridge, replaced in 1831, which caused the water to flow into the Thames to slow enough to allow it to freeze. As part of the stunt during that fair, replicated in this episode exactly, an elephant was led across the frozen Thames. So, yes.
Wow. Interesting. So my question for you is, I know we've spoken of it before, of the TARDIS not taking you where you want to go, but where you need to be. Is that an invention of the new series, or is that something that happened in past times as well in the classic?
Let me say it like this. One of the reasons the first Doctor couldn't go home, and, he said he was cut off from, that he and Susan were cut off from their own people, from their own time, but they never really explained that. You just learned that he couldn't control, the TARDIS. And then, he, depending on the writers over the years, certain people would write it to the point to where, he had a little bit more control of where he wanted to go simply for a storyline reason. But I don't really think that explanation, was given until the Doctor's wife explanation.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense then. So, of course, they land here, and you talked about them stepping out and noticing they're in the wrong place. They kind of jump back in, take another short trip, and it brings them right back, and they're at the higher point, I guess, where they can look over and see everything.
Right.
What jumped out to me from this point is when, and I think I came to you probably years ago and asked you, how does Martha Jones go into the past?
Yeah, you did. I remember that.
Because of the whole slavery thing. And they kind of, again, Bill asks questions that you want to know, and she asked the doctor about this, and the doctor kind of just gives it the silent treatment. He doesn't really address it, and then I think later he makes a comment about the history it's been whitewashed or something to that effect.
Yeah, he did. And, as you were talking, I was sitting here thinking about that episode with Martha, and that was The Family of Blood, I think was the name of the episode. And when we start in that episode, the Doctor has already hidden himself with using the fob watch as a human. So you didn't have the Doctor there to have that interaction that we at least saw, on screen or in story with Martha. She had to assimilate into that culture that was existing in order to, keep an eye on the Doctor, the 10th Doctor. So I remember from that episode the woman who actually is like the owner of the house or whatever. And I remember, I think she hits her hand or she cuts her hand, and she cannot believe that Martha knows how to, bandage her or whatever. It was like, I remember the total shock and awe of, oh, well, how, you're just a maid. How can, how do you know this?
Yeah. And I kind of think the silent treatment that we get from the Doctor in this moment when Bill asks about it is kind of just a setup for what we're going to get later when the Doctor is just outraged by comments of a certain lord. So,
all right. So let me ask you this, based on what you just said there, did you see, did you see that as a purposeful silence, or how did you, and I think you may have just answered this, so if you did, just say, hey, I just answered this, but how did you see his silence there?
Yeah, I mean, as I look back on the episode, I think it was very much purposeful, but at the time when I first watched it, I'm like, he's just going to brush over this. He's not even going to, acknowledge it, but I think it was done for a very specific reason, so we can get that later impact later in the episode when those comments are made by the Lord. I forget his last name.
Sutcliffe, I think.
Yeah. So I think it was kind of a setup thing.
All right. So here was my thought whenever I was watching it, was the Doctor is so far removed from any, predisposed prejudices based on whatever, fill in the blank, that it took him a moment to process. I think he just saw Bill for Bill. Bill is Bill, and just like Missy is the master, no matter the fact that she's a woman, for all he knows, this is the master, regardless, he just sees the being that is the master. And I think as I was watching it, as I, was processing the scene, and even after I went back and watched it again, I saw it more so as he's processing for a moment what other people see her as.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it also could be something to do with his nonchalantness about time and even death that we see later on in this episode. He's just kind of above it all. And before, it was kind of him and Clara being above it all. But now we have this different position where this person is just starting off and is new to this world. And from the Doctor's eyes, he's done it all before, but from her eyes, it's all new, and it has a lot of more heart attached to it versus how he sees things.
Yep, I agree. So keep going.
So has the TARDIS always had a wardrobe?
Oh yeah, it's always. Even I can go back and I'm just visualizing. People. I wish people could see what I'm thinking. But obviously they can't. But I'm picturing these different episodes, even back to the black and white era. And yes, it's always had a wardrobe.
Interesting.
So let me. Yeah, go ahead. Jinx, go ahead.
No, I'll just say, finna mention. So they get out and kind of move along, and they're indulging in the fair, I guess. What did you think about the Doctor's butterfly joke?
Well, more importantly than that, I just think that it was and this is my only negative for the entire show, and actually for this season, to be honest with you. I think that we've been cheated a little bit, because I would have liked to have had a little bit more airtime and seen, a few more stories with Pete, because I mean Pete was great, and the fact that we haven't gotten to see Pete anymore, that I wish he would have been on there longer.
Well played, sir.
Okay.
Well played. Yeah, funny but cruel at the same time.
But it goes absolutely back to the butterfly effect, and it's that when she turned it back on him, I mean, it was like, it's so much of a funny give and take with both of them.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna attempt to quote what the doctor says in this moment. Well, I think it was Bill first. She says, every choice I'm making this moment, here and now, could change the whole future. And I think the doctor says, exactly like every day of your life, the only thing to do is just to stop worrying about it.
Right.
Which man, that's like such a profound statement when you think about you in your current life living. It's the same situation. But I do get Bill's point entirely that she is going in the past and this has already happened and she can actually mess some things up, which is funny to me. If the doctor, again, is just nonchalant about this, like, oh, whatever, just do your thing.
Yeah, because how do you know that the way things are now is not the result of what you did then?
Don't hurt my brain.
No,
man.
seriously. Okay. No, seriously. So when you're looking at it from the perspective of, I don't want to, do something wrong. What if your reality that you know now is, because it is the way it is because of something you've already gone back in the past and undone or redone or changed?
Yeah, I get it completely, man. The huge problem with time travel as it goes.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Oh yeah, certainly.
So here was another thing. Right about the same time, two stark comments, and one that I was like, okay, there's going to be people that are not going to like his, even though it is true. There are going to be people that are not going to like the second comment, which is the doctor's comment. I liked the part where she said, "It's Regency England, a bit more black than they show in the movies."
Yeah.
And then he turns right around and says, so was Jesus. History's a whitewash. And there goes the whitewash comment.
Yeah, I'm like, man, they're kind of going for it right there, aren't they?
I was like, jugular, so they went like literally right for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the crowd that really likes this show, or the type of people that really like this show, I think most of those people are more open-minded than not. So
agreed.
If the statement is true or not, or if people want to know if it's true or not, I think it's beside the point. I think in all things Doctor Who, you have to be open-minded to the possibilities. And yeah, you're right. They actually went for it with that statement, and I was kind of shocked. But
but at the same time, while you're watching it, they didn't make such an issue that was. It didn't feel like, okay, just the same way that they did with Bill in the first episode. She didn't come out and say, "Hi, I'm Bill, and guess what? I'm a lesbian," etc. and so forth. They didn't. They just made it part of the story. The way they addressed the slavery in England, they just made it part of the story.
Which again, I mean, the way that they kind of insinuated about the whitewash, I kind of feel like they're doing the opposite with this show. They're showing more culture, which, is that true or not? Probably not, but it's still interesting that they took that stance.
Okay, all right. So let's move up a little bit. So they're walking around, and one of my favorite funny quotes in there was he pulls out the sonic screwdriver and says something about it being the sonic screwdriver, and she says, "How is that a screwdriver?" And he says,
that's funny.
In the very broad sense. And then she says, well, how is it a sonic? And he says, it makes noise.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And a question for you: is it just me, or does the sonic screwdriver look way more toyish than it's ever looked?
Yeah, it looks way more toyish than it's ever looked. I mean, like, I thought the Matt Smith sonic screwdriver was a little toyish looking, especially if you go back to the first sonic screwdriver we ever saw, which looked almost like a pen. And then, of course, the third Doctor really, I think the second Doctor only had it once, and that was the one that looked like a pen. But then, you had the third Doctor, and his had like this round ball on the top of it that, that was red, but it was basically, but no, this one looks very gaudy is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I'm totally glad that the screwdriver is back, but man, just the look of it. I don't know if it's to sell props or toys is the thing they're going for, but the blue at the top just looks weird.
Yeah, it's just too. And again, I think you're right. It's supposed to light up, and it's like, ooh, cool lights and shiny lights, and go buy it. Kyle probably would, but yeah, I get it. The lights, it's a little too much.
Yeah, speaking of lights, what do you think when the Doctor and Bill go into the pie hut to actually talk to the seller there, and the Doctor kind of just plays with the host there and talks and eventually steals a pie, which I thought was kind of weird, but I think the underlying thing was that he was just really investigating the lights that were under the ice and kind of doing it on the sly while Bill was actually trying to get his attention that she just saw him. So I thought it was weird that he stole the pie. I didn't really get that entirely.
So here's my response to that. When you're dealing with the Doctor, know that the Doctor is always, and I think this is either a River comment or a Clara comment, I'm not sure which, but it's something to the effect he's always 2 steps ahead of you and 1 step behind you, or basically he's outthinking you no matter what you're doing. So, when you're looking at him doing the thing with the pie and stealing the pie, there's probably a reason why he's doing that.
Yeah, kind of congratulating the host on his kindness, how much of a con artist he is, and things like that. So,
which also it just also goes into showing that the Doctor will absolutely get obsessed with something, because even whenever he got back and they are back into the present, and he's asking Nordal, "Give me a coin."
I didn't notice that.
So he was still on that flipping of the coin. So it was like, because I think that was the first thing when Nordal brought the tea in was, hey, do you have a coin? Give me a coin. Because he wanted to figure out the flipping of the coin thing.
That's interesting. Wow. So this is kind of where the episode turns and gets kind of heavy, in my opinion. We see the street orphans, or the orphans out in the street, running a con of their own, stealing the Doctor's sonic screwdriver, and what eventually ends up with the little boy. I forgot his name.
Let's see here, Spider.
Yeah, Spider with the red hat.
Yeah,
it ends up with Spider being taken under the ice, but not before the Doctor barely retrieves the sonic screwdriver. And it's in this moment when I could just see the expression written all over Bill's face of disgust and the feeling that the Doctor lacks any heart.
All right, so let me do this before you get to the interaction between Bill and the Doctor, because I think that's where you're leading to. Let's go back to that moment where you're seeing the little boy, you're seeing him steal, the Sonic, and that interaction up to that point, what were you thinking with, you're seeing the boy run, he's stolen the sonic screwdriver, and I mean, we know if something happens to the Sonic, we might have to see those damn glasses again. So, having said that, give me what you were thinking.
Yeah.
Up until that conversation or that you were about to get into. What were you thinking then?
Yeah. Oddly enough, I wasn't really worried about it getting stolen other than other historical implications of it actually falling in the wrong hands or something like that. We've already established that he has a bucket full of them or desk full of them. So the fact that it was going to get stolen really didn't bother me all that much. I thought he would still be okay. And I think that even if you think about the end of this episode, just not to jump ahead too far, but I think he lost it because it was in a tent that got that went underwater. So
no, he didn't. He had a wire or a string or something. He was pulling it out.
You're joking, right?
No, I'm not joking. I'm 100% serious.
What, really?
Yeah, that was when he pulls Bill up to either before, but I think right after when he pulls her up to the walkway or whatever that they're on. When the ice is cracking, you see him pulling the Sonic out of the water.
See, that's gonna make me mad. That's kind of dumb. Oh,
see, I disagree. I think that's just what he does. He's 2 steps ahead of you and right behind you all the time.
Yeah, this sounds like the writers were like, "Oh no, we can't let the screwdriver go underwater. Let's find a way to bring it in with Bill." Anyway, but yeah, I wasn't too worried about it getting stolen. But like you just kind of stated, he's not going to part with it.
All right, so let me ask you this, and you'll see in just a moment where I'm leading to. What did you think of, without saying, his interaction with Bill? What did you think of the fact that he wanted the sonic screwdriver, not necessarily the kid, just got taken under the water?
I'm not going to say that he didn't want the kid. I think he's just a best outcome type of person and move on, because he probably saw there was no chance he could save the kid. So he was trying to do the best outcome by saving his sonic screwdriver. So I don't think it was anything more than that, although Bill saw it very, very different. So what are your thoughts on that?
All right, so here's where I was leading to with that, and you basically said it right there. And I know this is going to sound cold, but I wasn't caring for, that the kid was under the water. I was thinking, okay, get the screwdriver, get the screwdriver. And in that moment when he's getting the screwdriver, I'm not seeing him, as in Capaldi, and I think this is the best compliment that you can give any current doctor when you can say, I saw X doctor at that moment, and I saw the 6th doctor at that moment, which is,
really,
again, ironic, considering that's who we're going to get to meet this weekend, is the 6th doctor.
And what was the reason that you saw the 6th doctor in that moment exactly?
As in, okay, you have my sonic screwdriver. I can't do anything to save you, and I'm not going to sit here and be sad about it because I've got other things to do. Give me my screwdriver.
Yeah, and I don't want to really get into the political climate in America, but it kind of reminds me of how something can be said or done that lacks any heart, and it could maybe be the best of intentions, not to shade anything that anybody's doing, but it could be the best of intentions. But if something isn't presented in a way that shows a little bit of heart and understanding, it could definitely come off in the wrong way very easily.
Okay, so considering what you just said, which I agree 100%, shedding the light leads right into where I kept saying, let's stop at, because I think this is the best 5 minutes, or your comment about one of your favorite parts of Doctor Who.
Oh yeah,
So take it away.
These questions that Bill asked in her outrage just made me think of all the episodes I've seen previously from the beginning of the reboot up until now, of the situations I've seen the Doctor in and how he's reacted, and how many people did fall along the way. How many times was the Doctor heartless? So let me just repeat what she said exactly. Have you seen people die before? Referring to the little boy, and she just, in the heartlessness of the Doctor, she just wanted to know these answers to this. And then she asked him, do you still care? And then she asked, how many people you've seen die before? And then how quickly do you move on? And then the final, the hardest, maybe the most heart-wrenching question of them all is, how have you ever killed anyone? Kyle, what was your reaction to this line of questioning by Bill?
Oh, I thought she as Pearl Mackie, as an actress, every single episode, and I cannot say this about Rose, I cannot say this about Donna, I cannot say this about Martha, and I cannot say this about Clara or Amy. There are very few actresses that in 3 episodes make me want to say, if she is a one-season companion, it is a, I think it will be sad if she's a one, because she, in 3 episodes, have just, she's been to me, and I think I don't know where and who I said this on, but I will say it again. She has helped Capaldi become a very likable Doctor.
Oh my God!
And she was amazing.
Yes, and not only her, again, we talk about the expressiveness of her face that Lee mentioned, and she just acts her butt off in this scene. And not only does Pearl Mackie act their butt off, Capaldi in this scene, oh my goodness, the look on his face when he's just, is almost a look of, how dare you ask me these questions? Smugness. But
not.
But not. And I totally feel all the emotion on his face when I could kind of feel his heart breaking at the line of questioning. It's just a great, great Doctor Who moment, man. It's just awesome. And I mean, quite honestly, it's the only time I've ever, I didn't cry, but it's the only time I've ever really gotten emotional in a Doctor Who episode. It's just phenomenal acting in that bit there.
On both of them. I mean, and again, I'm not disrespecting the work of Jenna Coleman at all, but I just wish that we could have had 2 seasons of these two together, because it's made, even with a such hefty topic as this it's fun to watch these two together. Yes.
And then the Doctor's response, I'm 2,000 years old. I never had the time or the luxury for outrage. It was just a great response. And man, like you said, they're just hitting all cylinders on it. It's just great.
Well, it's another commentary to piggyback off something you just said. It's another commentary on our present world of Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus and XYZ social media, where it's so easy for us to get outraged over incidental, small, minute things that we A, have no control over, and B, in the grand scheme of things, don't matter. And we get so, and I'm talking about myself. I do it. I mean, I'm guilty of that. And, the comment of him saying, I've never had the time for outrage. again, twice or third or however many times in this episode, it just says that what's her name? Sarah Dollard, who wrote this, very good writer.
Yes. So, moving on from this point, I have a huge problem with the next scene, even though I kind of liked it. This whole plan to get taken under and get the diving suits, it just seemed kind of dumb. These things are connected with a tube that allows him to breathe, I guess. And yeah, I don't know if he got this from the wardrobe as well, or he just got this from somewhere on the pier. But to me, it was just a weird plan.
Okay,
necessary but weird.
All right, so let's assume for a moment. Let's assume for the sake of the story that he found it on the pier, because if you got it from the wardrobe, you would have had to have gone back into the TARDIS and seen the alert, life sign detected under the Thames.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, true.
I'm kind of with you there. So let's go ahead.
And if the ice was closing up once they went under, how did the breathing apparatus even work? Because it's like a tube coming from the suit. So I didn't really understand that either. So
yeah, good point. And I haven't even thought of that one. All right, so let me ask you this. So let's jump on up so we get to Lord Sutcliffe's house.
Oh.
So take that scene.
So I don't even know the exact quote, so I'm not even going to say it. But before Lord Sutcliffe walks in, he kind of tells Bill, hold back. I got this. This guy may be an alien, and we need to have a proper talk with him. We don't need you, as we know Bill to be, very emotional, flying off the handle. So, man, as soon as this guy walks in, he says probably some of the most racist stuff I've heard, period, on TV in quite some time.
All right, so let me ask you this before we get to the Capaldi's response. So was he masking, in your opinion, was he masking, well, we don't know, this man could be an alien, so, you fly off the handle, et cetera, and so forth. Was that a mask for this guy's going to be... Yeah, exactly.
At first I thought it was, and it very well could have been. Maybe that was his easy way of telling her, we are in, the past, and you are African American, so not African American. You're
British.
You're black.
Yeah.
So what is it? African British? I don't even know what the terminology is.
There probably isn't, because I think that literally is something that America created.
Okay, so you're black. So of course, you talking to a lord is going to cause some issues. So maybe, like you said, that was his diplomatic way of telling her, maybe you need to hold back and let me handle this. And he's kind of makes a statement, what, passion fights, but reason wins.
Wins, right.
Yeah, right before Lord Sutcliffe walks in, and yeah, you want to take that?
Yeah, no, just the whole, we've never seen this doctor do anything really, really physical. And the first time we see him do something physical is he pretty much, knocks him to the floor. So kudos for him.
Yeah, I thought that was great. So a classic Who question for you.
Okay.
Have we known doctors to throw blows in times past?
Oh, yeah. Remember I was telling you that the sixth doctor tried to strangle Perry after, that's not the same thing, but he tried to strangle Perry after regenerating. But yeah, I've seen, actually, I don't know as far as blows go, but the second doctor was very physical, had a lot of physical, like running and jumping, and but now the third doctor was known for his Venetian judo, as he called it. There was a sword fight that I've seen between him and the Master, and yes, the Third Doctor especially was very James Bondy, very very physical. So yeah, he did a lot of scenes where I can remember there. You could tell sometimes there were stunt doubles, but still, the Third Doctor was very, very physical.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. And, again, we mentioned this earlier that he may have downplayed the fact that, she was black early in the episode to actually make this moment here have a bit more impact. And it did, because we saw the Doctor take up for Bill in a way I really didn't expect. So yeah, seeing the Doctor go to fisticuffs was pretty interesting.
And the guy that played, and his name is Nicholas Burns, the guy that played Sutcliffe is a very good actor, because he had probably at max 5 to 10 minutes on screen, maybe, more like 5, but still, in a very very small period of time, he came across very slimy and very unlikable. And as an actor, if to do that and establish that so quickly and for that amount of time, that's a good job. So he did a very good job of being bad.
Dr. Disco from the Fairford Club. Obviously, one aspires to membership, but to actually be considered for... Who let this creature in here? On your feet, girl! In the presence of your betters!
He's human. 31 years of age. Low in iron.
Yeah, that was pretty convincing racism for an extraterrestrial.
My thoughts exactly.
Yeah, he definitely played his role really well. So after the Doctor throws his blow and we see his henchmen walk in and kind of bound the Doctor and Bill, earlier when the Doctor grabbed his sonic screwdriver and let the little boy go under, Bill was not very pleased about that. She was indignant about that whole situation. And we see here in this moment when they're bound and they're talking to Lord Sutcliffe that her opinion just takes a 180 when the Doctor gives this awesome monologue about the nature of humans and how we should be good people. just an awesome bit of monologue by Capaldi.
Right. The whole thing of just because you have advanced industry does not make your basically life better than anybody else. And yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and just the expression on Bill's face was it tells the tale of that scene.
And another reason why I like this episode is just in that moment, my brain is already starting to process what can I learn to quote from this. This is a quotable episode.
Oh yes,
this is one of those that I will learn to quote, like I learned. This is actually now I know they keep talking about the Zygon invasion as he having a scene in there where it's a speech that's very quotable, but this is one of the few Capaldi episodes where I can say, okay, I'm going to learn that. I'm going to memorize that. And this is actually the first one where I have purposely said, I'm going to learn some of this dialogue.
Yeah, and what's so poignant about what the type of things that he says in this episode is not only having to do with Doctor Who. Like the quotes that he gives in this episode are good quotes for life, period. Very, very poignant to our political climate and life climate, the world climate. It's just a lot of good stuff in this episode.
So so we obviously know that. We find out at the end that the creature that's under the lake or under the Thames is being held there, and they're basically using crap, for lack of a better word, as fuel, and that's why they've captured this creature, which is it's just amazing that that's what they were doing, and that was why they were keeping it there, just for that.
Yeah, but although I never really figured out what the small fish played in the whole thing, other than bringing the humans in to consume for the big monster, I don't really see what they got out of it. Did you actually gather?
No, and I think last night, I'm not sure if it was Lewis or if it was Dave on Podshock, one of them basically, I think, had that same question. Didn't really see the connection there.
Yeah, and of course we have that kind of the back-to-back classic tie-up moment of the Doctor and Bill, and the henchman comes in, and the Doctor kind of gets him caught up with the sound of the sonic screwdriver that gets him pulled under. It's still kind of shocking to me. Well, not shocking, but very emotional how Bill is still perturbed by like death. And even this second one of this episode, she still has kind of the same reaction. She's like totally shocked and visibly upset by seeing even this henchman go under.
Yeah, and I guess looking at it from the perspective of what she said, it's different seeing something that is dead than it is to see something die.
Huh, interesting.
You know what I'm saying? From the perspective of, if you know something is dead, that's different than seeing something die.
Yes, and that might be a callback to Smile, where the older woman was just there laying there dead, and they even talked about the bones in the garden. So right. I don't know if it's just piling up on her at this point. She's having this voyage of adventure and wonder, but at every corner she's met with death and destruction as well. So it'll be interesting to see how her view either changes or she just kind of doesn't worry about it as the season goes on, or will that be the reason why she ultimately is not a companion anymore? Right. I don't
know. Well, it's funny because you segued into something that I was about to mention, and it was something that I mentioned last night again on Podshock, but I'll say it again, which is, and I'm going to say it exactly the same way and no more. She made a comment at the beginning asking about parallel worlds, and he said, "No, this is not a parallel world. There's no." I've come to learn, and I've come to expect there to be no chance mentions usually, and that's all I'm going to say. So take it as you wish.
So did that have something to do with the parallel world Cybermen?
No. But just take that as you will.
You got my brain turning now. I'm wondering, have there been other parallel worlds in the past in Doctor Who? That's the only one I know of.
So there you go. Let's talk about the kids for a second. At the end, you come back, and what did you think about what he did with the house?
I thought that was pretty awesome. And again, the times they were in, he kind of got the boy's name because even though the girls were older and more responsible, you need a lord for the house. And the times they were in, it was hard for as a girl to have ownership of the mansion. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And yeah, the Doctor doing what the Doctor does. We see him steal in this episode. We see him forge a document. So hey, he's hitting it on all cylinders.
And, one of the things that I found interesting, the little boy's name was Perry, even though it was spelt differently. He spelled, when he was writing the boy's name, he didn't spell it Perry. He actually spelled the full name of Perry Brown, who was, again, another nod to the Sixth Doctor. She was traveling with the Fifth Doctor at the moment when he transforms or regenerates into the Sixth Doctor. So that was another throwback right there with that name. He spells out the full spelling of her name, I believe.
Ah, that's interesting. I didn't catch that. Wow.
Not her last name Brown, but he did put the Sutcliffe at the end, but still spelled it like she would have spelled it if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we get to the end, and Mama Nordal was back, and
he's made tea.
Yeah,
with coffee.
And at first, I guess he thinks they just used the TARDIS to come directly back to the office, but then I guess he notices what they're wearing,
right?
And he becomes indignant. He's back to this promise thing that you made, and the Doctor kind of just tells him to get over it.
Yeah, and so, which is weird for me that the Doctor has said he's going to do something, and Nordal, who is a companion, whatever Nordal is, well, we know that he didn't ask to be put back together, so we know that he's cyborg or whatever he may be. Having said that, I just thought of something, but I'm not going to mention it, but I just thought of something. Wow. Okay. So, regardless of what, he's more worried about what's going on seemingly than the Doctor is.
Yes. And I don't know if it's just the Doctor not being worried, or is that he has the power of time, so nothing's really off the table. He can fix anything because of that power. He can go off on these adventures and still be back, and nothing's happened. The tea is just getting made. So I don't know. I don't know if it's completely just the Doctor being nonchalant, not caring about it. I just think he believes that there's nothing outside of his reach when you have a time machine.
Okay. So if that were true, then why is whoever that's in the vault, even in the vault, if there's no repercussions?
Yeah, true.
So let's jump to this. Nordal goes downstairs, or goes to the vault, and it seems like to me this is the first time he's ever heard the inside of the vault respond back. Did you get the same thing?
I don't know if I thought it was the first time, but whatever it was, he was just not having it. What made you think it was the first time?
I don't know. It was kind of like he was acting a little shocked as, I guess I need to go back and watch it, because when I watched it the first time, I was kind of listening for something and then didn't actually get it. And then I started reading online people saying, oh, well, this, that, and this. So I watched it. Whenever I watched it the second time, I was purposely looking for this particular something. Do you know what that particular something was?
Well, I was finna ask you before you mentioned that you've been reading online, so you may have already gotten spoilers here, but I'm assuming it's all just speculation. What did you... Well, you asked me first, so I guess I'll answer it. I really didn't have a clue. All I heard was banging. I didn't hear anything in that sequence that made me think it was a particular person or a particular thing. I'm really at this point no clue, but I haven't read anything online. So
the rumors online of something Christmas has nothing to do with what I'm referring.
Okay.
So what I actually was reading, and I actually, when I watched it, was counting this, but then I didn't get it. Yes. And I went back and watched it the second time, and on the the last time that the occupant knocks, there are 4 knocks. So he shall not 4 times. I'm just saying.
So for those of us who don't have the bulletproof memory that you have, I kind of give us the update on what that actually means.
Okay, you don't remember from 2008, 2009 when the 10th Doctor, or when David Tennant said that he was leaving, they wrote in, he will knock 4 times that...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's also the sound of drums, which is the time, the heartbeat of a Time Lord, which is, I should say, maybe I just need to give you some kind of master class on Doctor Who.
Which you just have briefly.
So there you go, master. And I did a masterful job.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I guess you could say I'm the Doctor Who master. So there you go. So yeah, I mean that's I mean we know that John. I mean it's not a spoiler that they put out that John Sim is returning as an incarnation of the Master. So the question being, is that Missy? Is that the Master, or is it something else or someone else? We'll find out, I guess, soon enough.
Oh yeah, and I'm just I'm enjoying the ride, man. Just keep these good juicy episodes coming, and I'm on board.
All right, so on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give it?
I'd have to give it the 4.8, 4.7, 4.8. Just one of the most fun, deep episodes. On the surface, it's not very deep if you look at the story, but some of the things that were said in this episode I felt were very deep and kind of reflected on me a lot. Being a black person, I just feel it was a really good episode, and some of the monologues from the Doctor was just fantastic, and I'm enjoying Bill's reactions, Bill's questions. I'm also still enjoying the Doctor's responses, and it's the enemies are getting better as we go along. So I'm just hoping this ramping up continues. So what about you, Kyle? How do you rate this episode?
All right, so here's how I rate it. And as I'm sitting here trying to rate, I'm wondering if I need to start rating it lower because I know that there's greater episodes coming. So if you keep rating things so highly, then when you get to these episodes that are going to be like mind-blowing that I am anticipating, we may just have to say, all right, out of 1 out of 5, we're going to give that a 6 or a 7 and say that's okay. So if we say that now, that it's okay to give higher than a, even though 5 is our top, if we can still give it higher than a 5, I'm going to go with your 4.8, 4.75. There were some, little bitty minor inconsistencies, like you said about the water suits and whatever. But this episode is quotable, it's enjoyable, and now comparing it to Smile Again, I could go sit down right now and watch this episode again. I could obviously watch the other episode, Smile Again, but I would just be watching it because, it's Doctor Who and I'm going to watch it again. I think I could watch this one again and enjoy it just as well. So 4.75.
Awesome.
All right. So, Clarence, would you like to tell everybody how to get in touch with us?
Yeah, I just want to say, first of all, please, if you enjoyed this show and you're using Apple Podcasts or iTunes on the desktop, please search for Discussing Who and give us a rating. Leave us some feedback. Just tell us what you liked about this episode. Nothing fancy. Just please, that every little bit helps. So you can find us at discussingwho.com, at Discussing Who on all of your social medias. And you can actually drop us a voicemail, 805-850-DWHO.
All right. So anything else you're working on?
Just the same old man. The Tech Petition podcast. Pretty much just haven't had a new episode in the past week, but just go to techpetition.com if you want to check out that podcast, which is mostly about tech and anime and stuff like that. Similar to this podcast, just on a few different subjects. But yeah, check that out. And that's pretty much all I've been working on. What about yourself?
Well, I keep mentioning Doctor Who Podshock, so obviously you can find me on there too. And Clarence and I, both of our shows, Discussing Who and his show that he has, Tech Petition, is also part of Geeks Recording in the South, Grits, and it's has some other local Mississippi Southern podcast and YouTube channels. So it is, correct me if I'm wrong here, Clarence, it is gritsms.com. And you can also find Grits on social media, and those social media accounts are listed on that website as well. So check that out, and we will have some. Probably our next episode after this one will not be a review. It will most likely be live from Wholanta. So expect that coming up in the next week or so. And thanks everyone for listening. So on behalf of everyone at Discussing Who, we are out of here.
You've been listening to the Discussing Who podcast. Discussing Who is made by fans for fans. No copyright infringement is intended. Show us you're fans of the show by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter. You can find us on the web at www.discussingwho.com. Want more Discussing Who? Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Player FM, the Doctor Who Podshock Alliance, and more. Send us your feedback to discussingwho@gmail.com, or if you'd like, simply record a voice message and send that to us via your smartphone, tablet, or computer. We want to hear from you.